Thank you very much. Good morning. So, we wrapped up the first half of our discussion involving policies and surpluses and elasticity. Let's briefly summarize and review. Why did we do that? What was the point of studying all those policies? What is it we're actually trying to accomplish in this course? Guys, what is this course all about? It's called microeconomics, right? The first course in econ you've taken was macroeconomics. This one is microeconomics. Why micro? What about micro?
Market efficiency.
Absolutely. It's called microeconomics, which means micro view, right? Look at the small thing. And the reason why we're looking at the smallest possible thing, which is the market for a single good or a single service, is precisely because we're trying to uncover the secret of efficiency of American economy, right? And it turns out you cannot find the answer to efficiency by the macro view, in macroeconomics, how the economy as a whole is working. It helps you measure the economy, it helps you measure vital signs of macroeconomic performance, but it doesn't help you understand where that efficiency comes from, right? Before we go any further, why do we care about efficiency? Why is that a worthy pursuit? What do you think? Well, let's recall, what is efficiency? What is efficiency, guys? You know what? Let's start simpler. What is economy? What is economy?
System
It's a system. What does it do?
turns resources into goods and services.
It transforms resources into goods and services. Absolutely. All economies on earth do exactly the same thing. They take the resources and transform them into goods and services. But not all economies are equally good at it. Some are very good at it, some are not so good at it. Our economy happens to be just about the best on earth in turning our resources into goods and services. Other economies fall far short of that. Why is that? Why is it that some economies are not so good? Most people are convinced that the economies that have a hard time producing goods and services are really bad because they have no resources. Is that really the case? Not necessarily. It turns out the world is sprinkled with countries that are awesomely rich in resources, yet are awfully bad at producing goods and services. In other words, not all economies can take their resources and transform them into goods and services as well as we do. And the difference is the efficiency, right? So what is efficiency? What's the best way to characterize efficiency? When do we say that an economy is efficient? When it not just transforms resources into goods and services, which is what every economy does, but efficient economy takes the resources and transforms them into maximum amount of goods and services that can possibly be produced out of given resources with a given technology, okay? And it turns out that our economy is fantastically efficient. Yes, we are a resource-rich nation, but it's not about how much resources we have. It's about what we can produce out of them. And taking our resources, nobody could transform our resources into more goods and services than we can in America. And we know that, because like I said, there's plenty of other nations that are rich in resources, yet can't transform them into goods and services well enough. So that's what efficiency means. think we need to study what is the source of efficiency? Why is it worth studying? Are you interested, guys? Do you ask yourself, what's the source of efficiency of this economy? What was the last time you woke up in the morning and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm wondering, what makes this economy so efficient? Has it ever happened? Never. See? Why should you care now?
Because most of us are business majors.
Say it again? Most of you are business majors and you basically have to take this class. Okay guys, here's the deal.
It affects your life.
Why are you business majors, by the way? Why are you business? Why don't you take anthro instead? Or medieval literature?
Because I want to make money.
You really want to make money. Okay. Are you going to make money?
What, with a business degree rather than an anthropology degree?
Yeah. You think?
I think so.
Do you think it depends on the degree?
Yeah.
No, it depends on the efficiency of the American economy. Only in an efficient economy will you be able to turn your degree into money. That's the point. Go and study degree somewhere in an inefficient economy. You're not going to make anything. The fact is, the only way to realize all your dreams is to try and realize them in an economy that's efficient.
Yeah.
And you happen to be very lucky to live in an efficient economy. So the question is, where does your luck come from, right?
From the economy.
And it turns out, it's not just a chance. It's not a game of chance. It's not like God rolled the dice and some countries were picked to be lucky and others unlucky. That's not how efficiency happens. Countries end up efficient as a result of deliberate action and decisions of people, governments, and obviously voters, right? When we're talking about democracy. So the fact that our economy is efficient, and as efficient as it is only because generations before you made deliberate, informed, correct decisions. And the countries that are not efficient, the countries where you could have the best degree in the world, and instead of making money with that degree, you would be driving cab, because cab driver makes more money in many countries than a PhD. There are countries like that, right? In the 90s, in the former Soviet Union and eventually Russia and other parts, there were physics PhDs driving cabs just to feed their families. And it's not like they made a lot of money, but certainly more than a PhD. Deeply inefficient economies, right? Again, it was not just because they had bad luck, because those countries are simply born unlucky or something. No, it was a result of really bad decisions, primarily by governments, that led to loss of efficiency. Efficiency is not something that happens by accident. Okay? This is why we want to know what really determines efficiency of markets. Because besides working on your degree, besides running or trying to develop your own career, you will also vote. And depending on how you vote and how competent a government runs this country, efficiency of this economy will depend. And if the economy remains and evolves more and more efficient over time, yes, you will realize your American dream, you will make money, and you will be fine. More money than an anthro major, right? But the fact is, if wrong policy decisions are made, America, just like any other country, may lose its efficiency, may lose its edge. And then you all guys end up paying for it. And the reason why I'm saying it is because I've seen happening it. Because I was born in a funny Central European country that just 15 years before I was born was one of 10 most industrialized countries on earth. by the time I turned 30, I was a college professor making $1,000 a year. Is that what you want to make? $1,000 a year?
Well, that's a different government too.
That's the point. That's exactly the point. It was a country that used to have a highly efficient economy, and all it took, guys, was 40 years, and it ended up being deeply, deeply inefficient. And as a result, so that's why we are interested in efficiency. Efficiency is really the secret to prosperity. That is what makes America a great economy, efficiency, right? And so we want to understand what are the things that make the economy efficient and what are the things that erode efficiency, so that you can avoid making silly or bad, wrong, harmful decisions down the road that could cost the economy efficiency. That makes sense? That's basically the motivation. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean this is the most fun exploration, but it's definitely worthwhile. It's definitely worth knowing. Especially because this is a democracy. Are you automatically governed by people who are competent in making efficient decisions and efficiency-promoting decisions? No. You are governed by people you elect, right? And if you either don't care to vote or you vote without getting informed, then you end up electing less than competent leaders who may adopt decisions that are harmful to efficiency. That's exactly what happened in a country where I used to live. It was a democratic country, and guess what? People elected communists. Why? Because they didn't know better. It was a democratic country where communists won election. I'm not saying in America communists will win election, but there's people with incompetent ideas all over the place. Not all of them are called communists, right? And so, as a result of those elections and subsequent bad policies, that country lost efficiency, and the rest is history. So, that's why we're trying to figure out what makes economy efficient so that we can safeguard efficiency and support and strengthen efficiency of our economy. That makes sense? And so that's why we started by analyzing that basic building block of our market economy, and that is a market, right? With demand and supply and equilibrium. And we found out that in equilibrium, QE, we found out that in equilibrium something is true. What is true in equilibrium? The total surplus is maximum, right? The moment we impose some policy that knocks the market out of equilibrium, makes the market produce less or more of the good or service, changes the price, the market price, the market is no longer efficient, right? That's what we showed in the first part of the semester. Now, just because we know that the policies we have studied erode efficiency of the market, does that answer where does efficiency come from? What is the source of efficiency? Can you now safely answer, now I know what makes market efficient? Yes or no? Correct answer. No, you don't. We just found out that the equilibrium, the market equilibrium, seems to be efficient, providing the largest total surplus to all market participants. But we still don't know what the source of that efficiency is. And this is exactly what we're about to explore now. How are we going to explore market efficiency? We're going to go even more micro. This is basically your market economy under a microscope. You see market economy, you take a microscope, you zoom in, and you see a market for a single good or service. The cell of that market economy, right? Single cell. And now we're going to zoom even further in and take apart, dissect, building blocks, the little organs within that cell, within that market. And we will focus on dissecting supply. Why? Because it turns out supply is a very, very rich phenomenon, very rich concept. And you will see just how much is happening in firms' behavior, in firms, how much is involved in the firm's decision to produce a certain quantity supplied. Why is it so, guys? Why are we focusing on supply and not on demand? It's not that there's nothing to study demand. It's not that there's nothing to study about demand. In fact, if you take intermediate, micro, or you go to grad school and you take grad micro, you can easily spend months studying properties of demand, develop deep theory of consumer behavior. It is a highly technical, highly mathematical discipline. It's very elegant. If you're into numbers, if you love math, oh gosh, you're going to have a ball. But the fact is that at this level of instruction, at the principles level of instruction, all of that analysis, which we could do, and we would spend several days doing it, but all we would use that analysis for is to ultimately identify basic components in the consumer's decision to change quantity demanded in response to change in price, and those components are income effect and supply effect, substitution effect. And once you understand income effect and substitution effect, you can compare them, you can set them in context, and guess what you're going to find out? You're going to find out and prove that demand is downward sloping. Now, do you want to go for several days through highly technical analysis for me to prove to you that demand is downward sloping? Or are we simply going to live with the fact that it is? All right. We're going to save ourselves a lot of time. And when you're going to take an intermediate course or graduate course, you're going to see indifference curves, budget constraints, utility maximization, demand function derived from the very principles of consumer behavior. You're going to calculate income effect, substitution effect, calculate them, graph them, and you're going to solve several homework assignments along the way, and then you will prove that demand is downward sloping. So I suggest, let's save ourselves time and trouble. Let's simply take demand as downward sloping and focus instead on supply. Okay? And it turns out that studying the properties of supply, in other words, studying why firms choose to produce a quantity supplied at a given price, that supply, properties of supply, is going to keep us busy for the rest of the semester or session. Okay? Why? Why is there so much happening when you're studying supply? Suppose you're running a farm. You rent somebody's farm, you sign a lease, you're renting somebody's farm, and it's a 1,000-acre farm. And you're going to make a decision. How much of it you're going to plant? How are you going to make a decision? How much corn you're going to plant on your farm? Are you going to plant all 1,000 acres, 800 acres, 600 acres, 400 acres? How are you going to make a decision, guys?
Quantity demanded.
Sit up.
Quantity demanded.
Quantity demanded. Okay. Tell me how you're going to figure that one out.
I'm not sure how, but your supply will be as much as what you need or what they're asking you to make.
Okay.
Grow.
Fair enough. Picture yourself being a farmer. Now, granted, I don't know anything about farming. I've never been a farmer. I grew carrots in the back, garden, but that's about as far as I got. Have you ever been a farmer?
No.
So we can just speculate, right? But let's speculate. Do you really think that farmers in America who grow corn wake up in the morning and ask themselves, what's the quantity demanded of corn?
No.
They probably never uttered those words. So how do they go about deciding how much to produce?
Can I have the person that they're like if they're
Say
not,
loud.
if they're not in like if the farmer's not selling directly to the consumer, can they go off of a third party that's buying it from like a grocery store or something like that?
Farmers pretty much never, large farmers definitely, never sell directly to the consumer. Right? If you're a small farmer, you have a few carrots or a few, a little bit of corn, you can go to farmer's market, right? North of the river, there's the little farmer's market, well, a nice, decent-sized farmer's market. But that's, if you're a small farmer, you just want to sell something in the farmer's market. But if you're really seriously like farming hundreds of acres, you're producing serious quantities of corn, you never deal directly with the consumers. You don't even go directly to cornflake producers. You go through wholesale, right? In other words, there's wholesalers who are purchasing that corn from farmers. So you will go through wholesaler. In other words, you already know who you're gonna sell your corn to.
Because they already know.
Say it again?
Because the wholesaler already knows
Knows what?
how much they need.
How much do they need? In other words, how does the wholesale work? Farmers line up with their harvest, start selling to the wholesaler, and halfway through the day, wholesaler simply stops the line and tells them, okay guys, I'm done buying corn for this year. I bought all I needed. The rest of you can go home. Take your corn somewhere else, or take it home, or then burn it, or what happens in the wholesale market, do you think?
They buy all of it.
They buy all of it. Everybody who shows up sells it to the wholesaler. Now if there's a lot of corn, a lot of farmers with a lot of corn waiting in that line and sell it all to the wholesaler will buy it all. What is the impact of the fact that there's a lot of corn to be sold to the wholesaler?
Lower price.
Of course, the price will change, right? And when there's not enough corn, price will be higher, right? And it's not just one wholesaler, guys. It is a nationwide price. For a certain grade of corn, there's a nationwide price. And frankly, there's not even a nationwide price, there's a world price, right? Those are huge markets, global markets with agricultural commodities, such as corn. In other words, when you are a farmer, you know where you're going to sell your corn. You're going to sell it to the wholesaler at what price? At the price that you dictate. You, Farmer Joe, can dictate. You can show up at the wholesaler and tell them how much you're selling your corn for. Well, you can try. But let's say the going price is $8 a bushel. And you show up and you tell them, okay, my corn is for $10. What are they going to tell you? Get out of here. I have 20 other farmers waiting here with their trucks. And if you tell them, oh, today my corn is on special, I'm selling it for $6 a bushel. What are they going to tell you? What's wrong with you, Joe? We're paying $8, Yes.
Does it kind of like trickle down to like you have the farmer that sells corn to the wholesaler? Well, the wholesaler is not just selling it out of the back of his truck. He distributes it to whatever
Absolutely.
to Publix. So if he knows that Publix is going to give him $5 a bushel or whatever you want to call it, when he set his price, so he has a decent margin.
Of
if he
course.
already knows the.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's, that price comes from somewhere. They all make calculations, right? Farmers make calculations, wholesaler makes calculations. And ultimately, of course, wholesaler then uses that corn for whatever, to distribute it to, cornflake producers, right? Food companies, and big chunk of corn, of course, is turned into ethanol and whatnot. In other words, there's then distribution. And the price, of course, reflects market conditions at all the stages. But the bottom line is, wholesaler somehow came up with price. Wholesaler know what he needs to, or what he wants to pay for that corn. Now, why do you think farmers go through wholesaler? Why don't they just go straight directly to distributors or to companies or directly to you guys? Why don't you see farmers knocking on your door hey, I have corn in my truck, why don't you buy straight from me? I'm gonna give you a discount compared to Publix.
To get more exposure.
Perhaps exposure, and of course it saves them tremendous amount of time, and in other words it reduces costs, right? In other words, farmers are smart, they know why they do what they do. So the fact is, if you're a farmer, you're growing your corn, you know you will sell your corn to wholesaler, and you know you will sell it at the going market price. And there's nothing you can do about it. That's your life as a farmer. The question now, really, the only question to answer is, given that you know who you're going to sell it to and for how much, how are you going to decide how much you're going to plant? Are you going to plant all 1,000 acres, 800 acres, 605? You have to ask yourself, why did you get into business in the first place? You probably like farming, right? Granted. You love waking up in the morning, hopping on your tractor, listening to the bees buzzing around your ears and that fresh smell of earth in the morning. You love all that. But you could enjoy that without being a farmer, right? You could just have your garden tractor, wake up at 5 in the morning and ride around your backyard and you will get the same kick. So why did you get into farming? Why grow corn?
Make money.
Exactly, to make money. So how do you think you decide how much corn to grow?
Market price.
You decide that to make, not just to make money, but to make as much money as possible, right?
American greed.
American greed. Greed is good. You've seen Gordon Gekko? That movie, right? Nothing wrong with it. In other words, what are you trying to accomplish? You're trying to generate profit. Pie for the rest of this session is going to be profit. And what you're trying to do is, you're trying to maximize the profit. That makes sense? That's what you're trying to do. And you're asking yourself, how am I going to make most money possible? Am I going to make more money by planting 500 acres, 600, 800, 1,000 acres? That's how you're going to ask. In other words, what quantity of corn that I produce will give me the greatest profit? That makes sense? Now, why do you think quantity matters when you're trying to maximize profit? First of all, does the quantity of corn you produce determine how much money you earn? Yes or no?
Yes.
Absolutely. In other words, your total revenue, the money coming in, depends on quantity you produce, right? The more you sell at a given price, the greater your revenue. That makes sense? So you might say, well, the answer is then very simple. I should produce maximum amount of corn possible because then I earn the greatest possible revenue. Is that true?
No.
Wouldn't you have told it like a surplus?
If that was true, then every farmer would always farm every last square inch of their fields. Is that what farmers do? No. Sometimes they farm more, sometimes they farm less. You always see some fields planted, other fields not planted, right? Why is that? Why would you not want to plant every last inch of your field?
The cost of production.
Because it's not only about how much you sell your corn for, it's also what it costs you to produce, right? And the profit is then the residual, right, of your total revenue after you cover your total cost of production. That makes sense? Very good. And so the question is, what is the quantity at which you're maximizing your profit, at which the difference between total revenue and total cost is the greatest, right? And that's how you pick how much corn you want to produce. It means how many acres you want to plant. That makes sense? Very good. This is why, guys, to understand properties of supply, properties of firms' behavior, why firms choose to produce a certain quantity at a certain price, we're going to have to understand how firms maximize profit. And to understand how firms maximize profit, we're going to have to understand how total revenue and total cost respond to changes in quantity produced. Does it make sense? So today, we will embark on this expedition, and we're going to dig deep into properties of supply by dissecting the profit maximizing behavior of firms. And we will take a close, very close look at properties of total cost, and then we will take a look at total revenue. And once we understand exactly what the properties of total cost are, what properties of total revenue are, then we can put our insight together, combine those insights, and we will understand why firms choose to produce certain quantity. At times, this is going to be tedious, kind of, it's not really technical, it's going to be just a bunch of pictures. But at times, certainly boring exposition. What's going to make it okay is the fact that we're going to do it fast, we're going to do it together, I'm going to guide you, we're going to sail through it, and you're going to be fine. Okay? The nice thing is, it's not going to take us forever. It's going to take us today's class, definitely. But pretty much on Thursday, we're going to see enough detail in total cost and total revenue that we can actually put them together and start using that insight to analyze behavior of firms. And the results, guys, we're about to derive are absolutely mind-blowing. You're going to be impressed. This is probably the most fun part of the semester. Once we put it all together, you will start understanding why firms do what they do. But before we get into nitty-gritty detail, I still want to discuss why is it going to take us the rest of the semester talking about these things. Number one. Number two, why are we going to start with total cost first and then total revenue? Why don't we do it in the natural order? Total revenue first, total cost then. Here's why. Once we start talking about total cost, and we will do a bunch of graphs and things will pop up and you will start understanding what's going on, we will obtain a coherent, concise picture of the cost structure of firm. And it turns out that the fundamental properties, the principles guiding the properties of cost structure of the firm are identical for all firms. It's not like all firms have the same costs, but the basic properties of those costs are the same for all firms. In other words, what we learn by analyzing cost, we will then apply to every single analysis, every single firm for the rest of the semester. So basically, by analyzing total costs, we will lay the common foundation upon which everything else will follow. Okay? Then, once costs are established and out of the way, we will turn our attention to total revenue. Now, you might think that total revenue is actually much simpler to consider, right? Or much simpler to analyze. Can you tell me what the total revenue is? For example, you're baking pizza. You have a little Joe's Pizza place here on the corner of Bay Meadows and South Side, and you're selling large one-topping pizzas for $10. Okay? If you bake and sell 50 large one-topping pizzas, and you sell each and every one of them for $10, what's your total revenue? 500. How did you find that?
Price times quantity.
Price times the quantity, right? That's total revenue. How complicated is that, guys? Is that complicated? Does that look like rocket science? No, simple. It turns out that analysis of total cost will take us today, possibly a little bit of Thursday. Analysis of total revenue is going to take us the rest of the semester. What's there to study? Where here's what to study. I just gave you an example of a little pizza place selling pizza at $10 per pizza, right? Why do you think a small pizza place here on the corner would end up selling large one-topping pizza for $10? Did I just pull that number out of the hat, or does that sound credible? Would you be shocked if you see a little pizza place somewhere here on the corner selling one large topping pizza for $10? Is that something you'd expect to happen? Why? Why does that sound reasonable?
Because that's around the same price as everyone else.
Because that's what everybody else is doing, right? There are about 4 pizza places around that corner right now. There's Pizza Hut, there's Domino's, and there's a couple others. Do all of them really sell one large topping pizza for $10 every single day? Maybe there's a little variation, but ultimately, is this what you typically pay for one large topping pizza, for large one topping pizza in Jacksonville? Sometimes you need a coupon, sometimes you don't need a coupon, but that's roughly the price at which pizza is going for, right? So why do you think, if Joe opens a new little pizza place there, why do you think Joe is going to end up selling pizza at the same price? Is there a law? Is there a citywide directive? You may not sell one topping pizza for any more and any less than $10? Is that a law? No. So why do all of them end up doing that?
Would it be how much the ingredients are to make it, like the pepperoni, the bread, the sauce, and then plus the manpower to make the pizza? Is that included in that price or no?
It better be. Because if it's not included in that price, in other words, if you're selling pizza for $10, but all the ingredients, pepperoni, dough, electricity, and manpower cost you more than $10 per pizza,
You lose.
then you do what? What do you mean you lose?
I mean, you don't have any profit.
And then what?
Go to business.
And then you're not there anymore. In other words, there ain't a single pizza place on that corner that would not cover all those ingredients and manpower out of those $10, right?
Yeah.
Does it mean that $10 exactly covers just electricity, dough, and manpower, and then at the end of the month, the manager or the owner is left with nothing? Probably they will generate some profit. What tells me that they probably generate some profit?
They're still there.
Because they're still there, exactly, otherwise they wouldn't be there. So that takes care of that, okay? But my question is, why all of them do the same thing?
To stay competitive with the other one.
In other words, guys, this is a free country. If you open a Joe's Place there, can you post a big poster on your pizza place saying, grand opening, today only, large one-topping pizza, $15. Can you do that? Is that legal in Jacksonville? Sure. Do you typically see that happening on grand opening day? Why not?
Go somewhere else for cheaper.
Because if you're driving by, you look at it and you think to yourself, like, really? You drive 50 yards further down the road, you stop by a Domino's and you get the same thing for $10, right? Now, Joe, who opened that pizza place, knows the same thing. So Joe knows, why would I ask for more than $10? Nobody will stop by. Of course, Joe could sell pizza for less. And it could be grand opening today.
Yeah.
Large one-topping pizza, $5. Is that legal? Sure. Does it mean Joe will end up selling large one-topping pizza for $5 forever? Why not?
He's trying to get more business.
Perhaps you want to attract more business that first day or first week, just to get people to know you, that you're there, but ultimately, you will end up selling pizza at $10. Why?
Stay competitive.
Because you can. Because that's what everybody else is selling pizza for. Why would you undersell? Why would you rob yourself of the profit you can make? And again, the $10 is $10 because that's the citywide, market-wide price of pizza. That's the going market price of pizza, right? Now, before Joe opened that pizza place, you used to buy large one-topping pizza in Jacksonville for $10. Now that Joe joined the market and started selling pizza, you still can buy large one-topping pizza in Jacksonville for $10. Just how much impact does Joe's arrival into the market, Joe's entry into the market, have on the market price of pizza?
Not that.
Absolutely no impact whatsoever. Why? How come whether Joe opens the pizza place on the corner or doesn't open the pizza place on the corner, pizza prices in Jacksonville will not change?
There are too many pizzas.
Because there are so many pizza places. How many? What's your guess, guys? Could it be a couple hundred pizza places in Jacksonville? Maybe even more, right? There's definitely a few dozen just here in the south side. So Joe and his pizza are just a drop in the ocean of pizza baked in Jacksonville every day. And so whether Joe opens and starts baking some pizzas or closes and stops baking pizzas has absolutely no impact on the market in Jacksonville, and henceforth no impact on the price of pizza. That's example with Joe and pizza. If we're talking about a farmer, you decide to rent the farm and start growing corn. Can you do that? Is that legal in America to rent a farm and start growing corn? Could you do that if that's what you wanted to do? Absolutely. There's people who do that. People who want to become farmers, so they lease a farm, start growing corn. If you decide to start growing corn and you plant your 1,000 acres, what's going to happen to world corn price this year? Absolutely nothing. Your impact on corn price is absolutely none. You have no impact on price of corn. If you open a pizza place, you have no impact on price of pizza. In other words, we have examples of markets such as pizza market, such as corn market, where a single producer has no impact on the market price, where a single producer simply ends up producing and selling at the going market price without having any impact whatsoever on that market price. That makes sense? Are all firms, all producers in America living by that standard, where they have absolutely no impact on price? Think of Steve Jobs for a second. 5 years ago, Steve Jobs introduced a new gizmo on the market, a gizmo like no one's ever seen. And he called it iPad. Whatever. Little thing, right? It's bigger than a phone, smaller than a laptop. What's that good for? And of course, Steve Jobs had to decide how much he was going to sell it for. How much did first iPad sell for, guys?
$800, I think.
$800 was it? I remember it was summer 2009 when they first showed up. Let's say $800. Where did that number come from?
They just made it up.
Was it a going market price? There was no market, guys. That thing did not exist just a few months earlier. It was first time there. So Steve Jobs basically, or Apple Corporation basically,
Made it up.
made it up. They chose a price at which they wanted to sell it. Could they start selling those iPads for $1,500?
Sure.
Sure. Would they sell any?
Not as much. Maybe.
I'm sure they would sell a lot. Certainly not as much
Yeah.
as they sold at whatever, 800, 700, 600 or whatever, right? But I'm sure they would sell some. Now you're saying not as much. Well, could they have started selling them at $400? Oh, absolutely. And they would have sold a lot more, right? So why do you think they chose, if you're saying $800, then $800? Why do you think they chose that price?
How much it costs them to produce, plus
For the bag.
nice margin.
In order in other words, they chose that price in order to
Maximize profit.
maximize profit. Did they maximize profit?
You know what?
How many billions of dollars did Apple make on that product,
I
right?
was reading an article, it says it's like, it costs less than $100 to make iPhone.
Say it loud.
It costs less than $100 to make iPhone.
iPhone and iPad probably can't be much more expensive, right? So absolutely. I mean, those are enormously profitable products. Do you guys start feeling the difference between Steve Jobs and Farmer Joe? Steve Jobs can decide how many iPads to make. Farmer Joe can decide how much corn to grow. But Farmer Joe will sell his corn at the going market price, whereas Steve Jobs will sell those iPads at any price he wants to. Can Farmer Joe pick a price at which he's selling? No. Can a pizza place choose at the price at which they're selling? Not really. Can Steve Jobs choose a price at which he's selling iPads? Absolutely. Does that make a difference, you think?
You talking about market power?
Say it loud.
Market power?
Oh, that's exactly what I'm talking about. In other words, does this ability to choose price make a difference in how business is done? First of all, there are many farmers who are doing very well. Have you ever seen a family farmer who is a billionaire?
Sure, there's one.
Probably not. I'm sure there are huge, agricultural corporations that, rake billions of dollars. But family farmer, certainly not a billionaire. On the other hand, a company like Apple makes exorbitant profits, billions of dollars. Do you think the ability to choose price has something to do with that? Well, it turns out the ability to choose price has everything to do with that. And the more ability you as a firm have to pick the price at which you're selling your product, the greater your profit. This is why the ability of a firm to choose or change the market price is the greatest power a firm can have. And that power has a name. It's called the market power. So what is the market power? It's the power a single firm has over the going market price. Did Apple Corporation have power over iPad prices when they were first introduced? Absolutely. How come? What gave them that power? Because they were the only one. What do we call a firm that is the only one supplying a certain good or a certain service?
Monopoly.
Monopoly. Absolutely. So at that time, when Apple introduced first iPads on the market, it was a monopoly in the tablet market. If you wanted a tablet, you went to the store. How many types of tablet did you have a choice from? Or how many brands did you have a choice? Wow, there was iPad and that was that, right? They were the monopolist in that market. And as a monopolist, they could determine the price. And so they chose a certain price, they chose a certain quantity to sell at that price, right? Because they could have sold more if only they made it cheaper. They could have sold it at a higher price, but they would have sold less. But they chose the combination of price and quantity such that they maximize the profit, right? That's what market power allowed them to do. How about if you open a pizza place? Do you have the same market power? First of all, do you have a power to choose quantity? In other words, determine how many pizzas you want to bake. In other words, Can you decide in the morning, oh, I feel so lazy today, I'm not gonna bake any pizza? Can you do that? Do you have that power? Sure. Or you say, oh, today I feel like baking pizza. You go there early in the morning at 5 in the morning and you start baking pizza like there's no tomorrow. So yes, you can choose quantity. But can you choose the price at which you're gonna sell that pizza? No. In other words, how much market power do you have if you're baking regular, large, one-topping pizza? How much market power do you have? What control over market price of pizza in Jacksonville do you have?
Zero.
Absolutely none. You have no market power. If you grow corn, and in the fall you're gonna sell all your corn to a wholesaler, how much control over price do you have? Absolutely none. So, Farmer Joe growing corn, or little pizza place baking and selling pizza are examples of firms that have absolutely no market power. Apple, when it introduces the first iPad on the market, is an example of a firm with all the market power there is. They have absolute market power. Now, does it mean that Apple Corporation has absolute market power to this day? Are they still monopolists in that market for...
More.
Hmm?
No.
How come? What took that market power away from them? What reduced their market
Narrow
power?
competition.
Because within maybe months, but certainly a couple of years, other companies started to producing similar products, right? Now, some of you might feel, oh, they're not as good, they're not as cool or whatever, but they were certainly priced competitively, and some people decided, hey, why would I pay $10 for Apple if I can spend $100 or $200 less and buy me a Samsung, right? In other words, now there's competition. Can Apple still determine the price of iPad? Yes. Do they still have the same amount of market power? No. Their market power has been eroded by competition. Good morning. But they still do have some market power. In other words, we've had examples of firms with no market power, such as Farmer Joe or a pizza place. Companies that have absolute market power, such as Apple when it introduces a new iGizmo. And then examples of firms that have some market power, perhaps not as much as a monopoly would. That make sense? Now it's a good time to pause and ask ourselves, why are we talking about these things? Why are we talking about various firms having various amounts of market power? Because it turns out that depending on what market power your firm has, your firm will choose to produce a certain quantity of the good. In other words, depending on how much market power you have, you will decide quantity supplied. So quantity supplied in the market by all the firms in the market depends on the amount of market power they have. But if quantity of goods and services produced depends on market power, do you think efficiency could depend on market power? Well, I say, let's explore it. And yes, let me give you early flavor of what's to come. We're going to find out that market power substantially determines efficiency. Now, when you think of these various examples we had, monopoly, corporation, Apple Corporation when they introduced iPad, Farmer Joe or pizza place that have no market power, and then markets where there are just a few firms competing, each of them retaining some amount of market power. Which of those examples do you think produces the most efficient market outcome? which market do you think produces goods and services efficiently? The one where firms have no market power, where firms have some market power, or where firms have absolute market power?
No,
Power.
no.
No power.
Absolutely no market power. And I'll show you how that works. And it turns out, markets where there's no market power produce highest efficiency. Exactly. Now, what exactly makes Farmer Joe lose all the market power? What is it about the corn market that makes all those thousands of small farmers producing corn powerless?
There's so much competition.
So much competition, exactly. In other words, the more fierce the competition in the market, the less market power firms have, and the more efficiently they produce. On the other hand, the more market power firms have, the greater profits, of course, they can generate. But they do so by producing less efficiently. And ultimately, of course, the most inefficient of them all are monopolies, because monopolies have all the market power. Okay? So what exactly is making American economy the most efficient economy on earth? The marvel of global economy.
Joe's Pizza Place.
The fact that most of our markets are awesomely competitive. You might of course say, yeah, but look, Apple is a huge corporation, it's very important. And it's great that we have it here in America, and yet we used it as an example of a monopoly, which supposedly is inefficient. So what are we talking about? Does the example of Apple Corporation somehow fit this narrative that we just developed? Are you glad we have Apple Corporation in America, despite the fact that when they introduced iPad, they were a monopoly, which translates into inefficiency? Well, look, guys, first of all, you have to ask yourself a question. Why is it firms such as Apple are trying to achieve market power? Because if you have market power, you can manipulate price and you can make not just millions, you can make billions, right? So you can maximize your profit. But how do you become a monopoly? How do you get all that market power? Say it again, yes? Sorry. No.
Keep on inventing.
Absolutely. I mean, there's various ways. You will see that there are various ways in which firms try to gain market power. Some of them are awesome and admirable, and some of them are really, really nasty. But there are various ways in which firms can try to accomplish market power. But whatever the way firms choose, the purpose of market power always is to increase profit. Now, in case of Apple, of course, Apple is a company that has managed to gain enormous market power on a number of occasions in its history by innovation, right? They invent new products, introduce them to the market. They are the first ones in the market and by definition, monopolists, right? And that gives them market power to generate billions of dollars in profit. Does it mean they remain monopolists in that particular segment of the market forever? No. Because once competitors see, oh my gosh, there's this thing called tablet, let's follow, right? Competitors follow, enter the market, and ultimately, of course, the competition reduces the market power. What happens to prices of tablets? Goes down. You give it a few years, and things such as cell phones, tablets, laptops become what? Ordinary consumer products that are not that amazing anymore. Everybody can afford it, everybody can have it, right?
It's kind of like VHS players and things like those used to be like really expensive and innovative, and then you get introduced to to the DVD player, and now the DVD player, you could still get one for like $20 or something.
Exactly, absolutely, absolutely. So, this is basically, guys, this is basically a narrative we're gonna pursue, we're gonna explore for the rest of this session. Today, we will start analyzing costs, perhaps the most tedious and to some extent boring part of our discussion. But the sooner that's done, the sooner we can turn our attention to analysis of total revenue, where we will first start studying properties of total revenue of pizza place. Pizza place that has absolutely no market power. And once we see the properties of total revenue of a pizza place, we'll combine it with the properties of total cost, and we will understand the behavior, profit maximizing behavior of a pizza place, and we will understand the properties of supply curve of a pizza place. Then we will turn our attention to firm with absolute market power, a monopoly, and we will study how the monopolies do business. And then ultimately, at the end of the session, we will turn our attention to markets where you have a few large firms, each of them having some market power. Okay? And the beautiful part of that last discussion is going to be that we're going to do it in the context of a highly simplified, very simple, very elegant example of a market where we're going to study 2 firms with market power, 3 firms with market power, 4 firms with market power. And we're going to find out how adding firms strengthens competition, reduces the market power. And we will then compare it against an example with 1 firm, which is the monopoly. And ultimately we will extend that 3 firms, 4 firms, 5 firms to N firms, which would be a competition, like many, many firms, right? And then we will see exactly how rising competition erodes market power, changes quantity and price in the market, and leads to more efficiency. And that will be the final, all-encompassing answer to the question where efficiency comes from. Okay? So that's the plan. Let's now take a 15-minute break and then we'll continue.